When you see a Mercedes-Benz with 3 letters on the back, AMG, you're going to expect 3 things. 1, it's going to be fast, like crazy fast. 2, it's going to be slightly ostentatious with its gaudy chrome, big wheels and tires, and of course, loud, burbly V8 exhaust noises. And above all, 3, it's going to be luxurious. Hello, it's a Mercedes-Benz after all. Now, some purists may argue that Mercedes-AMG has been slightly diluting the brand with the introduction of their subdivision models like the C43 and E43 series. However, you also have some enthusiasts like myself who believes that Mercedes-AMG needs those subdivision models because the full-fledged ones are simply too bonkers for the average consumer, which is why I'm standing by the newest addition to the E-Class family. Meet the 2020 Mercedes-AMG E53. It replaces the old E43 in the lineup, and under the hood we find an all-new powertrain that we haven't seen under the hood of an AMG product for over 20 years. That's right, a straight 6-cylinder engine is finally under the hood. This one here in particular is turbocharged, supercharged, and electrified to produce around 430 horsepower. Now, even though this is not the full-fledged E63 model, Mercedes-AMG says you'll get to 60 in around 4 seconds, and with nearly 500 horsepower under the hood and 4MATIC Plus all-wheel drive, this should be a much more attainable car for the average consumer and much less expensive to boot. So the big question I want answered, is this all-new E53 AMG worthy of that AMG badge? That's what we're going to find out. Now, because this is an AMG product, I want to first start with showing you guys what's underneath the hood of this thing. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this replaces the old E43, which essentially was the sub-AMG model in the E-Class back in 2018. This new version has a higher numerical order because it has more power versus the old E43 model. Now, the big news, of course, is this new engine. It's the M256 straight 6-cylinder engine. If you guys remember, about 23 years ago, Mercedes got rid of their straight 6s and replaced them with a V6 because of packaging. They wanted the engine to be much more compact, which is why they did away with the old Inline-6. Now, as you can see, this marks the return of an Inline-6, and it's an all-new clean sheet from the ground-up Inline-6. Now, in a world full of electrification, you might be wondering, why did Mercedes spend all the money here to develop a new internal combustion engine? Well, the reason being is because we've probably hit a peak in terms of technology and efficiency with internal combustion engines, and this is probably one of the best new internal combustion engines you can buy. It's still a 3-liter inline 6-cylinder engine. It's turbocharged. It has a twin-scroll single turbo that produces a lot of boost, and the E53 model also adds an electric supercharger. Now, that electric supercharger comes in to kind of fill in the gaps of the turbocharger to kind of mitigate the lag. It also has a 48-volt mild hybrid system. So the hybrid system replaces essentially all of the accessory drive belts. It has an electric water pump. It has an electric alternator and starter. So again, it makes the engine a very modern engine, and because of the packaging and because of the design of the engine, it's actually only about 6 inches longer overall versus the old V6. Now, considering the fact that this is now an inline-6 and the engine itself is only 6 inches longer, is pretty crazy design and engineering stuff. So Mercedes didn't have to actually modify the engine bay to allow this inline-6 to actually fit in here. Now, also because this car is electrified, it doesn't actually have any accessory front drive belts. That saves about 2 inches on the front of the car because it doesn't need that because it has the electric water pump, it has the electric starter, it has the electric alternator. And of course, the numbers, that's probably what you guys are more interested to hear. This makes 429 horsepower on its own and about 384 pound-feet of torque. That's about 30-ish more horsepower, maybe 50 more horsepower versus the old E43 models. And keep in mind that mild hybrid system adds about 21 horsepower on its own and about 184 pound-feet of torque. That 429 horsepower that I quoted you earlier does not include what that electric motor will produce in certain bursts to give this car, again, very little to no lag. Now, of course, because this is now an inline-6 that's turbocharged, supercharged, and electrified, it actually gets pretty decent gas mileage. It's rated at 21 in the city, 28 on the highway. All of the E43 models are essentially 4MATIC Plus all-wheel drive. So they essentially can send up to 100% of the power to the rear if you'd like. However, this car doesn't include the rear drive drift mode that you get on the E63 models. Now, of course, the transmission, there is no manual on an AMG product. Instead, you have the 9-speed MCT. It's a multi-clutch transmission, so kind of Mercedes' version of a dual clutch. And performance is still very strong. You should get to 60 in around 4 seconds. Electronically limited top speed for this car is around 130 miles an hour. So, of course, some of you may remove that. This should easily do over 150 miles an hour. Now, despite all of the trickery and extra performance and the aluminum trim that you'll find in this car, or aluminum around that you'll find in this car, it's still relatively heavy. This one, as it sits, weighs around 4,400 pounds. Now, once you get past the all-new engine, looking at the design of the 2020 E-Class, you can see this car got no changes for 2020 in terms of the styling. This particular one here that I'm showing you is the coupe model. The coupe model is not one that you see very often, of course, because everybody tends to buy, sedans or crossovers. But as you can see, this generation, this is the all-new 5th generation model that we saw back in 2017. It's known internally as the W213 platform. Mercedes actually just showed off a completely refreshed version of this car. It was supposed to be at the Geneva Motor Show, but because Geneva got canceled, Mercedes released the car's photos online, and the sedan version is the only thing they've shown so far. Which we'll talk about, of course, later when I see one in person. I actually like the front fascia of the pre-refresh models more because this, to me, when it first came out, looks exactly like the current generation S-Class. Now, of course, Mercedes got criticized for making all their sedans look similar. However, if you stare at this thing and you didn't know this was an E-Class, you'd easily mistake it for an S-Class. Now, as you can see here, the E53 model has its own unique styling. The grille, of course, is the twin aluminum blade grille with the AMG badge in between there. If you guys go for the E63 models, the full-fledged ones, you'll have the Pan America grille where it has the vertical chrome slats. So this is how you know this is the 53 model. All of them will come standard with full LED headlights. You can also upgrade the headlights to where they swivel. They have automatic high beams. Some of the vents in here are functional, but again, some of them are also fake. This particular one here with the silver exterior looks pretty plain Jane. Honestly, it looks expensive, but compared to some competitors like the BMW 8 Series or the Lexus LC, you'd be hard-pressed to know that this is a really fast car, which some of you may actually like the fact that this is kind of a little bit of a sleeper car. Now, looking at the rest of the profile of the coupe version, you can see the coupe model definitely has a unique design to it when you look at the side profile. I especially like the fact that the B-pillars are not there when you guys actually put the windows down. It gives it a very unique look. You can also get this car as a cabrio, so basically this car with the roof chopped off, a sedan, and of course a wagon version. And if you want a swoopy coupe-like sedan, Mercedes also offers the CLS version. The coupe only comes in the E450 or this E53 version, and compared to the sedan, this is actually considerably shorter. At 198 inches long, it's about 5 inches shorter versus the sedan. Its wheelbase has also been chopped off by about 2 inches, still a relatively long 113-inch long wheelbase. This is, again, the shorter member of the E-Class family. Now, my particular tester here has the standard set of 19-inch wheels wrapped in 245 width tires, 275s in the back. You can also option them up to a 20-inch wheel if you'd like. Mercedes has fitted this particular one here with winter tires. They're Michelin winter tires because we are still in the early part of March here in the DC area. As you can see, the brakes are also nicely upgraded. They're drilled, cross-drilled with the larger AMG brakes. You can also option this car in to get carbon ceramics on the 63 models, not on the 53 models, so kind of keep that in mind. I especially like the combination this one has with the red two-tone interior. I probably would like this car more in white. I like the panoramic sunroof, which is usually optional. It's standard on the 53 models, which again, this one here is a little bit higher up in the hierarchy. And then following me over to the rear of the vehicle, the coupe version has its own unique look, and unlike the sedan, which has the vertical taillights, this has that horizontal strip of LED taillight, which also has this really beautiful kind of glittery effect in the taillight. Leave it to Mercedes to make the taillights extra sparkly. They're a full LED design. The badging over here, you can see you've got the E53 badging, and then of course the AMG model has a unique rear bumper area with the quad outlet exhaust. The exhaust systems, however, are not actually connected to the mufflers, which is a little bit disappointing, but it's an AMG car, so you probably want to know what it sounds like. And even though it's not the V8 growl that you get in the E63, this straight six has its own unique sound to it at all, and I'm super excited to show you guys how this thing drives. Now, opening up the trunk, just like a Volkswagen, you kind of push this emblem up, and you can see it's got a power opening and closing trunk, which it's a Mercedes, so you kind of expect that. And the coupe model definitely has a lot less trunk space versus the sedan. You're looking at just over 10 cubic feet of space. The sedan has roughly 3 more cubic feet of cargo space, and the opening is slightly on the smaller side. The seats do still fold down in like a 30-20-30 arrangement here. And then if you look underneath the floor of this particular one, there's slightly more storage, but this car does not come with a spare tire. Instead, Mercedes will fit the car with a run flat tire. So the outside of the E53 may not look like much compared to the competition. However, when you get inside the interior of this model, holy crap. This is exactly what I expect modern luxury to look like. And to be honest, this is actually the older infotainment system in the E-Class. The new 2021 model has the newer MBUX. But as you can see here, the big wall of screens, the real carbon fiber, the real leather, it's all a very nice place to spend time. Now shutting the door itself is very heavy and solid sounding and solid feeling. And if you want for an extra $500, which my tester doesn't have, you can also option in a self-closing soft close door. So again, if you guys want that option, Mercedes offers it. And when you start the vehicle up, or first things first, I want to show you the key fob for the vehicle. It's a fairly traditional Mercedes key fob. You can see it has the traditional lock, unlock, panic. You can open the trunk. Their intelligent access key is standard. So essentially just keep the key fob in here. When you start the vehicle up, it actually doesn't have a traditional starter noise. It actually kind of purrs to life because remember, this has an electrified mild hybrid system, so the engine doesn't have that traditional starter because it has an electric starter, unlike, again, the more traditional models. Now, when you start the vehicle up and you put the transmission into it, or you put the car into dynamic mode, as you can hear, the exhaust baffle opens up when I go into sport. There's also a button here where you can close the baffle if you'd like, or leave it open, and when you leave it open, now sadly, there is a pretty lame 3,500 RPM rev limiter, but we'll go out later and we'll let that straight 6-cylinder engine sing because this is easily one of the best sounding modern engines that you can buy today. Now looking at the rest of this cabin, wow. In terms of materials, you've got genuine carbon fiber, you've got real metal trim, you've got leather stitching everywhere, you've got this premium high quality Napa leather, which by the way, these seats with the two-tone red combination, they're heated and cooled. They adjust in like 18 different ways. They have 3-person memory on both sides, and they're also massaging seats. The massage is really damn good. So again, the seats, the interior, will remind you exactly why this car has a sticker price of nearly $100,000. Even though the outside may not look like it all the time, the inside definitely feels that way. And even though this car has the older infotainment system, check it out. The fact that Apple CarPlay takes up the entire screen, some of the newer MBUX systems that I've shown you do not actually take up the whole screen. It actually only takes up about half of the screen and cuts it off right there. The full LCD over here in the instrument panel, which is again customizable. You can change the way the layout looks if you'd like. The AMG specific steering wheel, which by the way, this steering wheel was just replaced in the 2021 model. I actually don't know if I like it. This steering wheel to me is very chunky. It feels really good in your hands. It's got really nice metal controls. It's got the touch sensitive buttons over here, or the touchpad, where you can control this screen, you can control that screen over there. You have these metal paddle shifters. You've got, stitching on the door panels over here. The windows are one touch up for all 4, which is nice. The window switches are trimmed in metal, which feel really expensive and really high quality. So again, all this stuff you kind of expect in a Mercedes. You also have a heated steering wheel, which is power, tilt, and telescoping by this little control stalk over here. Everything in here is just really nice, and the fact that my tester has the air purifier package, so it's wafting a perfume into the interior that smells fantastic. So if you're tired of all the stinky air that you smell in your area, the air ionizer and air purifier in this car makes the cabin smell really nice, and it's worth every penny of the $550 that Mercedes-AMG charges you for that. Now, going over here to the infotainment system, you can see here is the older infotainment system that Mercedes offers. It still looks very damn modern if you're asking me, and the one thing that's wonderful about this car is if I say Mercedes, 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 that stupid annoying person doesn't come up and say, how can I help you? Here you can see. How can I help you? Yes. Yeah, so of course you just had to throw that in there. Which is, again, all part of the MBUX infotainment system. It's coming for the 2021 model year, so if you guys don't like it, you can enjoy the older system here, which still looks fantastic. Now, when you put the vehicle into reverse over here, you can see it's got a full 360 camera that's part of the parking tech package. Mercedes does one of the best cameras in the business. It's really high resolution quality. It takes up almost the entire screen. It shows you a really great top-down view, and it also parallel park itself automatically for you. If you guys spend that $2,000 for that parking technology package, it's pretty much worth every penny. The rest of this cabin you can see here, you have some secondary controls here, some nice toggles for the dual zone climate control. You have some secondary controls here to go to the infotainment system. Remember, this is not a touchscreen. If you guys go for the MBUX, that throws in a touchscreen. This is not a touchscreen. You have to control it from the pad here or the little pad here, or the rotary dial over here. So there's 3 different ways for if you include the voice commands, but MBUX adds the touch response, which I kind of wish this had the touch controls, but at the same time, I don't miss it because you're not going to be getting fingerprints all over there. Now, opening up this area over here, you can see there's a nice storage cubby that reveals 2 cup holders, a USB port over there for your iPhone, and then a wireless phone charging pad. If you guys have MBUX, they replaced this control here with a USB-C versus the traditional dongle, which I actually much prefer this, but again, USB-C is kind of the newer connection here, so you can expect that on all the other newer Mercedes products. Looking over here, you can see there's the touchpad for the command interface over here. You have a wheel here to control the volume, exhaust, loud button, you have your automatic start-stop, you can activate the cameras, you can switch your drive mode selector, which by the way, when you switch the drive mode selector in this vehicle, they offer a choice between individual, slippery, comfort, sport, and of course Sport Plus. I'm going to be primarily driving this car in Sport and Sport Plus because I like the way the exhaust system sounds. Over here you have this nice padded area for your armrest, and then if you open this up, you can see it reveals 2 more USB ports, an SD card reader, a little bit more storage over there, which is fairly nice. I also like how the lid opens up in 2 separate ways. The seats, I find them to be extremely comfortable. I love the massage feature in this seat. Really, really good massage feature, worth every penny if you guys option that in. You also have a nice glove compartment over here that opens up to reveal a pretty decent amount of space. You can see the fragrance system is over there in the glove box. You'll probably have to replace that maybe every few months, every time you get it for service, which hopefully it doesn't cost an arm and a leg to do that. Above me, the panoramic sunroof also lets in a lot of lights. It really allows for an open area cabin, especially when you have all the windows down, including that rear window, which really gives this car a really cool, unique look to it. But let me hop into the back seat really quick because Mercedes says there's actually space back there for adults, so let's see if that's actually the case. So compared to a vehicle like the Lexus LC500, the back seat of the E-Class can surprisingly, or at least Mercedes claims, fit an adult back here, maybe a shorter adult like myself. Now to get back here, one thing I like about the car, like I mentioned before, this window that comes down really gives the car a unique look to it. And then when you want to get back here, just kind of pull this lever on this side here. The driver's side also has that same lever. Of course, you have to wait for the seat to kind of electrically move forward, and this is the most forward that it gives you, which reveals a pretty decent amount of space to get back here. Now again, keep in mind, I am 5'7", so let me crawl into the back seat here. I'm gonna go to the other side to show you guys the space. Now, okay. Getting back here, Mercedes says there's about 34 inches of legroom back here. And you actually, once I settle in, this is my first time sitting in the back seat, it's actually not bad. There's a decent amount of foot space. There is, of course, a giant hump here, which is fine because this only seats 2 people in the back seat. There's no third person over here. And compared to the sedan, legroom only shrank by about 3 inches, which isn't bad. Headroom is also pretty good. Now, again, if somebody was over 6 feet, your head's going to be touching the ceiling because of that sunroof. But for somebody that's my height, this is not bad. I'm just sad to report that there's no armrest over here. Instead, if you want to get an armrest, you can fold this down, which technically this is not an armrest, which would be nice if they included that. You have 2 cup holders back here. You open this up and you can see there's another USB port. There's a 12 volt over here. It looks like an ashtray as well. And then the materials back here are also pretty nice. You have the same stitched leather. You have the same metal speaker covers for the Burmester sound system. A lot of leather stitching everywhere. So again, if you needed to actually put shorter people in the back, you could do so in the E53 Coupe. Just keep in mind, if they're over 6 foot, it'll be a little bit more of a pinch, but this is way more space than what you're gonna get in the Lexus LC. All right, so now it's time to finally drive the E53 AMG. Now, I actually have had some time in this new straight 6-cylinder engine, not the 53 version though, because remember, this adds that electric supercharger to it, so it adds more power. This marks the return of a 6-cylinder in an AMG product. We haven't seen one for like 23 years, so this is a big deal. Now, obviously, one of the cool things about a Mercedes, I can turn on the massage feature and get a massage while driving a car in Sport Plus and have it, you know, be supposedly AMG-like and bonkers crazy. Let's see how this thing feels out on the road, shall we? Oh my God, you gotta love the sound of a straight 6. Ooh, long live the straight 6. Ooh. Ooh, what a noise. You know what's amazing is this engine has no character in the ML or the GLE and the GLS that I drove last year. But ooh, listen to that. This one has the AMG Performance exhaust, and ooh, what a noise. What a crazy, crazy noise. But anyways, I want to do a quick launch in this car. We'll turn the traction control into sport mode here. Ooh. Oh my God. Feel the shifts of this thing. This has the 9-speed MCT, so it's a multi-clutch transmission. It's a dual clutch, basically. Oh my God, this car doesn't quite have the race start launch mode of the E63 or the GT63, but man. Okay, so the V8 in the 63 sounds great, but this straight six, oh God, the noise of this straight six. Oh, long live the straight six. Wow, Mercedes, just wow. For an engine that was so characterless in the GLE that I drove last year, oh. Now, Mercedes says this one will get to 60 in 4.4 seconds. I've seen it as quick as 4 seconds. It reaches a top speed of 130 miles an hour. And I feel like delimited, this thing would easily hit 170 miles an hour. It is just insane how fast it is. And you know what? For those of you who think AMG cars can't handle, oh, listen to that burbles in this car. The E-Class Coupe really will hold its own on a curvy road. I'm sorry. I keep getting so distracted by that lovely exhaust noise. I mean, the $1,250 for the AMG Sport exhaust is worth every penny for this car. There may be a stupid rev limiter when you're in park, but my only gripe with this engine is I wish it revved more. It redlines at 6,500 RPM, and I want it to keep pulling to 7,500 RPM. This may very well be one of my favorite new engines out for 2020. What a gem of an engine. And you know, some of you still question whether this car deserves to be a true AMG car at the back. Some of you say it's really just an AMG light. It doesn't have that hand-built engine. Well, you know what? By Mercedes doing a straight six in this thing that's turbocharged, supercharged, and electrified, it adds its own unique character to this car. And there is like no lag in this thing. I am just shocked. Usually a turbocharged engine like this with a big turbo has some kind of lag in it, but because it's got that electric supercharger that helps it at low RPMs, because it has the electrification that kind of fills in the gaps, as soon as my foot goes down, the transmission just quickly downshifts, and there's just a surge of torque, a wave of torque. There's just no lag in this powertrain whatsoever. Wow. Wow, Mercedes. And even for a big coupe that weighs 4,500 pounds, I barely feel the weight of this thing. I mean, sure, it's not, a Porsche 911, but it's very much on par with the last Lexus LC500 that I drove. And while the Lexus had that screaming V8, that naturally aspirated V8, which was nice, this straight six is certainly no slouch. I mean, it makes me wonder, what do you need the 63 version for? I mean, sure, you'll get to 60 a second faster than this. You'll get a V8, but you'll also be using more gas. In my week's worth of testing, I actually was averaging around 20 miles to the gallon in this car. On the highway, I got it up to 30 mpg. 30 mpg in a car that has like a 21-gallon gas tank. You're looking at almost 500-mile fill-ups on this thing if you can control your right foot, which is going to take some willpower to do. But I mean, everything else in terms of the visibility, this car is easy to see out of. I love the fact that there are pillarless, there's no B-pillar here. So when you open all the windows, it kind of gives you the feeling of a convertible. I love the panoramic sunroof. I mean, sure that Mercedes offers this as a cabriolet, but the coupe is just a really great body style. I mean, you got room in the back for average size friends or people. You have a decent amount of trunk space. This is very much an executive car, or executive coupe. And even though it's not the full-on S-Class, the interior feels just as nice. It handles a lot better. And you get that amazing straight six sound. What a car. I was not expecting to like the E53 this much, but this is by far the definition of like the best daily driver. It's fast, it's comfortable, it's luxurious, it's quiet when you want it to be, it's classy. It also doesn't shout in the same way that an LC does. The LC can be a little bit too shouty if you guys don't want to stand out. This definitely blends into the crowd a little bit better. I mean, it looks expensive, but it doesn't shout, "Look at me," which for some people is a really big consideration when you're buying a car like this. So every time I drive a Mercedes-Benz product, it always makes me feel a certain way, even more so with an AMG model. So after spending a week with the E53 AMG, let's go over some of the things I talked about in the introduction. This car is fast. Maybe not crazy fast, but definitely stupid fast. It doesn't need to be this fast. It's also relatively ostentatious. The glittery taillights in the back, the sweet sounding engine, but not quite as loud as something that you get in the E63 model, and it's properly luxurious. I think that was the most important aspect of the E53. The interior looks like $100,000, even though the exterior is a little bit more of a sleeper. It's not quite as ostentatious as the E63 models. Now, with all that said, is this car worthy of the AMG badge? I'm gonna actually say yes, even though it's not a full-fledged AMG model. And really the only thing that's missing is an extra 175 horsepower and the fact that the engine is not hand-built like the E63. You're going to be enjoying several factors by going with the 53 models. First things first, the price. This car is considerably less expensive than the E63, which starts at around $107,000. And if you want the 63, you can't get it as a coupe. It's only available in the sedan and wagon form. This car, as it sits, starts at around $73,900. It's about $1,000 more expensive versus the sedan if you guys go for the same vehicle with the same powertrain configuration. The coupe in general starts at around $64,000, about $10,000 more than the sedan. But keep in mind, the 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo engine is not available on the coupe. This starts out as an E450 coupe and then goes up to the E53. Now, of course, my tester here has roughly about $20,000 worth of options, from the massaging seats to the upgraded leather, to the upgraded infotainment system, to the upgraded sound system. All in, this one stickers for around $95,000. Now, $95,000 for a car that is not a full-fledged AMG model may sound like sacrilege if you're a purist. However, keep in mind, if you're gonna build up an E63 sedan or wagon, those can easily be $130,000. So remember, you are saving yourself about $30,000 by going for this model, and you still get 0 to 60 in 4 seconds. It still makes you feel like you're on top of the world when you're driving this thing, even though it doesn't quite shout as loudly as those models. I actually think that a lot of enthusiasts would appreciate this model, and the fact that Mercedes has returned to a straight 6-cylinder engine for this car makes it even more appealing. So if you're looking for an AMG model, don't want to spend that much coin, you don't want something that's super gaudy and ostentatious, be sure to put this one also at the very top of your list. With all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on this 2020 Mercedes-AMG E53 Coupe. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.